You know, there was an NBC special they did about 2 years after this movie came out, where they interviewed Arnold Schwarzenegger, Eddie Murphy, and Sharon Stone about their history in Hollywood and how they came to be. And Sharon Stone said this.
The road to Hollywood is tough. Schwarzenegger, Stone, Murphy.
I made a lot of pictures that weren't good just to keep working.
Yeah, this is one of those movies she's probably not proud of at all. I mean, wow, that trailer. I didn't show the full trailer, but man, it's a mess of a trailer. Let me put it this way. If a trailer is telling you about all these different movies that the people behind the scenes have worked on that have absolutely nothing to do with this movie, there's a huge problem. And I'm not even kidding. Look at some of the stuff that I took from this one trailer alone.
Film from the producer of The Right Stuff, Raging Bull, Rocky 1 and 2, and The Music Box. Can you describe the assailant? From the creator of Audrey Rose and The Entity.
The Right Stuff, Raging Bull, Rambo 1 and 2, Music Box, Audrey Rose, The Entity. You even see Psycho, and I guess they were trying to put in Nightmare on Elm Street in there with the Nightmare on there. You notice that in this trailer that the actual title of this movie, Scissors, is nowhere to be found except in the credits. That's how you know they were not proud of this movie whatsoever. And the trailer for this is so annoying. I did not even get to show you some of the stuff they do, but the characters in this are so annoying in this one trailer alone that let me just say I did you a favor by not showing you the entire trailer, because you would have lost your mind just as much as I did watching it. But whew, that was rough. And like I said, you can tell this is a movie that Sharon Stone's probably not proud that she made, but she did it for a quick paycheck. The premise doesn't even look like it makes any sense whatsoever. You got these two guys, played by the same actor, Steve Railsback, and Sharon Stone's character is harassed by this mugger who uses scissors as part of his thing to rape and to harass and rape this woman with, pretty much. I mean, it's just an idea that's just like, who thought of this, and who thought this would be a good idea to make as a movie? And what's even stupider is that the scissors are actually Sharon Stone's characters. The person that attacks her in the beginning of the movie uses those same scissors and stabs her she stabs him in self-defense. I'm getting so confused here because it's just like, this is such a stupid idea, and this whole idea, and you never really get a sense that they knew what they were doing. They made a movie that even Lifetime would look at this and go, we're not giving you the money for this. Get the hell out of our offices. We're stupid. I mean, we make stupid movies, but this is a stupid idea. This is a terrible looking movie. I mean, it's a mess of a film, and I cannot believe somebody really thought that this was actually going to work and pay off in a big way, but it just doesn't. It just doesn't. It fails miserably on so many levels. It's a mess of a film. And, yeah, if Sharon Stone's not looking back at this and thinking, why the hell did I decide to do this movie, then clearly there's something wrong with her. And,
is back in business.
Thanks for saving me, tough guy.
And business is booming.
I was afraid you weren't going to drop by.
Hudson Hawk.
That excites me.
Check, please.
The best cat burglar that ever lived.
I didn't want to do it. All I wanted was a cappuccino.
But he can't retire.
Maybe nobody told you. I quit stealing.
If he wants to keep on living.
This is a brand new tuxedo!
Watch your step. Hold your breath. Hang on for dear life. And catch the Hawk.
Good plan, Junior.
Bruce Willis, Danny Aiello, Andy McDowell, Hudson Hawk.
yeah, this is one of Bruce Willis's biggest misfires ever. I mean, this is a movie that has a good idea to start off with. It's like the idea of this action comedy type of thing that they're doing, and it starts off pretty well. There's a great sequence where Bruce Willis and Danny Aiello are these robbers, and they're singing Bing Crosby's "Swinging on a Star," and is at the beginning of the movie, and you think to yourself, okay, this is actually kind of amusing. I think they're trying to do something like those 60s parody spy movies or something like the Pink Panther in a way. But unfortunately, the movie really just has a hard time figuring out what it wants to be. Like, how slapstick silly are they going to get with this? Or how serious are they going to take it? The balance between the tone of what they're trying to do here just doesn't work very well. That being said, there are some funny moments in here. I'm not going to lie. There's a part with the villains of the film, Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhard, where Bruce Willis is like dancing around with Sandra Bernhard, and like Richard E. Grant puts a knife near his crotch, and he's just starts with this high-pitched voice and goes, "Well, I always wanted to sing like Frankie Valli." Like that stuff like that does work, but you really have to sit through a lot of terrible jokes. There are some really bad jokes, specifically centered around Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhard, who are just like, they don't really know how to play these characters in this movie. It's like, just be loud and rambunctious and over the top, and that'll be funny. And it's just like, well, that doesn't really work like that. And I mean, really, this whole movie really had some potential to it. You can see the potential there, but unfortunately, they just don't show it on the screen. It's just like, there's just so much there that just doesn't really fly. The blending of both Daniel Waters of Heather's fame and Stephen E. D'Souza, who would later write Sudden Death and Street Fighter, their writing ability just doesn't work together. And this is a real major misfire for Bruce Willis, who really was on a roll at this point. And then he made a couple of misfires like this and The Bonfire of the Vanities, and kind of like petered off his career a little bit. But yeah, Hudson Hawk is one of those movies that it could have been something amazing, but unfortunately it just isn't. It's a movie that is one of the biggest misfires of 1991, one of the biggest misfires of all time, and sadly it shows on screen. It just can't find the right tone of what it wanted to be. And occasionally you'll get a decent laugh here or there, or an impressive moment, but overall, yeah, it's a really lackluster movie, to say the least.
Share an all-new adventure with Atreyu, the Rock Fighter. Meet Junior, the childlike Empress, Falcor, and many more friends in the Neverending Story 2, the next chapter. Rated PG. Plus, Bugs Bunny in the all-new cartoon Box Office Bunny. Rated G. Both start Friday, February 8th at a theater near you.
I went for the TV spot because, really, that Box Office Bunny short's pretty much the only thing that most people remember from this movie, because that was easily the better thing than the actual movie itself. I mean, the short itself is very funny. Even though it is very short, it's around 5 minutes, and usually the old Looney Tunes cartoons ran at about 7 or 8 minutes, but, I mean, for a 5-minute short, it works fine for what it is. And like I said, it's much better than the actual movie that came with it, which is a shame, too, because, you know, The Neverending Story was such a classic movie. Wolfgang Petersen directed it. It's a movie that still holds up to this day today. And Neverending Story 2 just feels like a sequel that really didn't need to exist. There was nothing really about Neverending Story 2 that made me look at it and say, I'm glad the story continued. It's just like, no, this is just an unnecessary continuation of the story with less of the magic that made the first movie so special, and more convoluted plot lines that make this movie really not work whatsoever. I will give it this, though. It is at least better than what we got with the next movie that came after that, Neverending Story 3, but that's not really saying much. That's like saying, I had an analogy I was going to try to do, but then I immediately forgot about it. So why don't we just pretend that last 10 seconds never happened and just move on to the rest of this? Because bottom line, what I'm trying to say here is that Neverending Story 2 it's not a good movie. It's definitely not a good movie in terms of the first movie, but at least it's not as bad as Neverending Story 3. There is at least some effort of trying here, but yeah, overall, it just didn't work. It quickly died on. You could probably tell why. The only thing that anybody really remembers to this movie is the fact that they had the Bugs Bunny short at the beginning, and that was really the only real reason to go see this movie on a big screen, just to see that, at least in my opinion. But
Long ago, in a faraway kingdom.
Do not draw that sword unless you intend to use it, sir.
A dashing prince and his lady fair ran into a few problems.
A symbol of our eternal love.
You have cursed my gift!
Frozen forever until she meets a true love from another land.
And that is the legend of Hauptmann Konig's enchanted peasant girl.
1,000 years later, Jason Williamson started a new job.
Well, lucky you. It seems we have an opening on Mr. Montrose's staff.
Give me cheekbones, or give me that. And found the girl of his dreams.
2.5 billion women in the world, and I'm trying to score with a statue. There is definitely something wrong with me. Gesundheit.
Dankeschön.
You're welcome.
Whoa! Whoa!
Why are you running?
Why am I running? Why are you moving? Why, God!
After a 10th century snooze,
The lights are beautiful. How does it all work?
Well,
she's got some catching up to do.
It's diet soda. No calories, no sugar, no caffeine.
Oh, we had something like that back home called water.
hey, Baz!
Who's in the bathroom?
No questions, please.
We do not fall in love with empty things unless, of course, their daddies are rich. And in this case, her daddy's a redwood, so I forget about it.
Jason.
It's not what you're thinking, Mom.
He's in love with a dummy.
The count is here to preview the display. Are you sure you're supposed to be out in the daylight? Get back. I want to see the enchanted peasant girl now.
Where is she?
The enchanted peasant girl's alive.
That is impossible. I have to save her, Hollywood.
No one messes with Count Spretzel. I thought Cupid aimed for the heart.
Hey!
I learned this from the Marines.
You were in the Marines?
Yes, they were looking for a few good men, and so was I.
Jason, come on!
Mannequin on the move.
Stranger things have happened.
Where have you been all my life?
So it's controversial opinion time. I didn't hate the first Mannequin. I know a lot of people did. I know it didn't make a ton of money at the box office in '87, but everyone kept saying it was a bad movie. I watched it, and honestly, I didn't hate it. I thought it had a good charm to it. Andrew McCarthy and Kim Cattrall had some good chemistry. There were some fun moments between them. It's a ridiculous movie. It has that great theme song, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. It's a silly movie. It's completely over the top and ridiculous, but I don't know. I had fun with it. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's one of those things where it's just like, I should hate this movie, but I really didn't. I really didn't hate that movie as much as I thought I was going to. Second one, not so much. I think this is exactly what everyone thought I thought the first movie was going to be like, except it's even worse. This movie just doesn't work. It takes that little bit of charm that the first movie had and just throws it out the window to make a cash grab sequel that has nothing to work for it. The chemistry between the two leads in this one, Christy Swanson, William Ragsdale, it's just not there. They take this over-the-top element and just put it into an insane new level. And the movie can't even decide if it wants to take place in the same world as the first film, despite the fact that two people from the first film are back in this one. But they decide to not have one of the actors play the same character from the first film. I mean, so what's the point here? Is this supposed to be a solo sequel or what? I don't know what's going on. The jokes aren't funny. The ancient mythology thing that they added to this is laughingly bad. You got Terry Kaiser from Weekend at Bernie's, who's doing nothing but mugging for the camera because you know what? He did it in Weekend at Bernie's and it worked, except that Weekend at Bernie's knew what it was supposed to be, just like the first Mannequin knew what it was supposed to be. But it doesn't work here, and it's just like, it's as bad as you think it is. It's nothing like the first movie where they actually do kind of surprise you a bit with a film that's kind of charming. But in this, there's just nothing here. It's a bad movie. The comedy doesn't work. The script is all over the place. The chemistry doesn't work. It's a bad movie. It's definitely one of the worst films that came out in '91.
Hey, Margot.
I'm kind of surprised party Sunday night.
Oh, yeah? Steve Brooks was never content with just one woman. Or two. Or three. God knows half the women in town could have killed him for being such a womanizer. One did. But heaven wasn't ready for a guy like this. So God sent him back and gave him one more life to live. The only catch is, he's got to live it. As a blonde.
Some woman screamed ahead of Brooks' apartment. Again?
It's okay. It's okay.
Who are you?
Who am I? Who am I? Unbelievable.
It's me, Walter.
Who's this?
It's me. I'm a woman.
Yeah?
Can't think with all this hair.
Now he's a man trapped in a woman's body.
One of those bitches.
And a woman trapped in a man's world.
I lost my virginity.
Can we tell her about this?
I'm sick and tired of being treated like a piece of meat. I am scarred.
It really is you, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah!
Switch.
Another one of Blake Edwards' comedies from the last half of his career, where he was kind of falling off the pace, and he was just trying to do anything to keep his name relevant. It's a shame that these movies haven't been as good as they should have been, because of course Blake Edwards is probably one of the great comedy directors of all time. And it's like right as soon as Peter Sellers passed away, he didn't really have that same track record that he did before. There were a couple of movies he made after the last Peter Sellers Pink Panther movie that actually turned out pretty good, but nothing that really came to that spark that the Pink Panther movies had at that point when Sellers was still alive. We talked about Skin Deep a couple of years past this one, and I don't even know what I was trying to say with that, but Skin Deep was a movie we talked about with him, is that he directed a couple of years before this one came out. And this one, there's definitely some good ideas to it. I like this idea that this womanizer turns into a woman after he gets killed. And you can definitely tell where Family Guy got the inspiration for the Quagmire storyline in the Valentine's Day episode they did, because this is pretty much that in a way. But the jokes just aren't really there. I mean, there's a good idea to it, but the jokes just aren't really there. And as much as I like Ellen Barkin as an actress, I don't think she's a very good comedic actress. I haven't seen her in anything where she really is hilarious in it. Maybe Ocean's 13, but even then, that was just kind of like, I mean, she was good in the movie, but she didn't really do a whole lot to be super funny or anything. And Jimmy Smith is also in this. Then of L.A. Law fame, of course. You got Joe Beth Williams, Lorraine Baracco, and just there's some good ideas here. I just don't think the comedy is as good as I think they wanted it to be, and it's a shame too, because you could tell Blake Edwards was still trying to capture that magic he had before, and it just wasn't there. It's a movie that's just kind of like, okay, it's just like, I get the idea, and it just really, you could pretty much predict everything that's going to happen at that point, unfortunately. And it's a shame too, because like I said, there's a good idea to it, just the wrong execution, unfortunately. Switch it overall doesn't work, unfortunately. And
Paramount Pictures presents international Kenho star Jeff Speakman.
Should be more respectful of our organization.
Is there a problem here?
Yeah,
guess so.
Hey, Terminator, I don't know where you came from, but you better go back. The skies are golden this. You're a dead man.
A tragedy he could not prevent.
Cam!
It's a signature execution. We've seen it before.
Leads him into a forbidden world with nothing to rely on but his own lethal skills.
Who killed Kim?
You cannot handle this by yourself.
who said it never hurt to ask?
Everybody in Koreatown knows Young killed Kim, Dick. Tracy?
Now, we are ready. Young and I have some unfinished business. I will finish it.
He has no gun. No fear.
Are you faster than a speeding bullet?
No equal.
No problem.
In his explosive motion picture debut, Jeff Speakman is the perfect weapon.
Yeah, Chuck Norris, this guy is, and Jeff Speakman is not another one of those guys that can just sell a movie based off of his ability in martial arts. It's just like, no, this guy's not that good of an actor, and this is not really that good of a movie. It's one of those movies where it's just like, no gun, no knife, no equal, just try him. And it's just like, okay, and then the bad guy shoots him, and it's just like, there you go, problem solved. It's just like, there's nothing about this movie that really... I'll take that back, though. I mean, it is I mean, the martial arts sequences are fine for what they are, but I've seen a whole lot better in other movies, and I guess the only other notable thing is that one of the great 90s songs of all time, The Power, is used extensively in this movie's soundtrack, and it was even in the trailer too, but I had to cut that part out because of, YouTube copyright issues. But, I mean, if that song is really the only thing that's going to make you want to see this movie, then that's probably a problem with this movie. It's just not a very good movie, and like I said, Jeff Speakman just does not have a whole lot of personality to it. He's just like he's like one of those guys that you would see in a mock comedy where somebody's supposed to play like this big action star, and when the cameras are off and he has to be in a real situation, it's just like, he's nothing like that whatsoever. It's just like, yeah, it just doesn't work very well at all. The Perfect Weapon is certainly not a perfect movie at all. In fact, it's a pretty lackluster movie, unfortunately. I mean, I guess people who like American Kenpo will definitely get into it, but I'm not one of those people, unfortunately. So,
That's Bette Midler and Woody Allen. After 16 years of marriage, he's doing the honorable thing. He's telling the truth.
I had an affair.
The whole truth.
Did she do tricks in bed, things I don't do?
No. Yes, actually she did.
And nothing but the truth.
Have there been others?
2, yes, and there were one night.
Scenes from a mall.
3, actually, if you count the hooker in Dallas. That was business. I was totally business. They sent it to my room. I couldn't refuse. It was a gift.
Starts Friday, February 22nd at a theater near you.
So you've got Bette Midler and Woody Allen, two very funny comedic actors who have shown they can be very funny on screen. You have Paul Mazursky, the director of Enemies: A Love Story, Moon Over Parador, Moscow on the Hudson, Down and Out in Beverly Hills. I mean, a good solid group here coming together to make a movie. You would think that this would be a match made in heaven, right? Well, think again. It doesn't help that the whole movie is nothing but Bette Midler and Woody Allen bickering and going at each other and just being so detestable and unlikable throughout the course of the entire movie. Once they reveal that Woody Allen is having an affair inside of a mall, no less, so why the hell is he even doing that except to just grab attention for himself and his wife? The movie just falls apart almost immediately. It's just like, you cannot connect with these characters whatsoever because they're so annoying. They won't stop fighting with each other. They think they're being funny. They think they're being hilarious, and they're just not. They're just not being funny. They're being annoying. They're trying to be the most obnoxious person in the room so everybody will pay attention to them. Where's the fun in that? I know misery makes for great comedy, but not like this. I mean, like I said before, Woody Allen literally goes to a mall and tells Bette Midler, "Hey, I've been having an affair," and like, he's just ready to start. So he just wants to start a conversation. So not just a conversation, but start something where he knows he's going to get upset at her, and it's just like, who does that? Like, who? Well, okay, nowadays people will do that for attention, so they can go viral and become super famous, because that's just the way the world works now. But no sane person would do that in public. Nobody would really ever do that in public. A sane person, I should say that. But it just doesn't make any sense how this movie ended up being so bad on so many levels with this two very talented actors and actresses aboard on this and a great director. I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they made this movie. I mean, maybe if Woody Allen had a hand in the script, maybe they could have had something there, but nope, the movie just ends up being one of the most detestable, one of the most uncomfortable, and just one of the most annoying comedies you will ever see. It's a terrible, terrible movie. Avoid Scenes from the Mall like the plague, man. It's a bad, bad movie. It's a huge black mark on both Woody Allen and Bette Midler's name, a huge black mark on Paul Mazursky's name. It's just a terrible movie all around. Highlander 2, The Quickening.
What a title. Greetings, Highlander. You called?
Let's have some fun. In all their centuries on Earth, nothing could have prepared them for the Quickening.
Christopher Lambert, Sean Connery, Highlander 2, The Quickening.
So not only is the title really bad, but this movie in general is... yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, it's a movie that's not only a major step down compared to the first movie, which has its fun elements to it, but it's largely mostly remembered because of the soundtrack by Queen. But at least it makes more sense than anything in this particular film because, oh boy, this is like a complete disaster on so many levels. I mean, just the way that this movie completely retcons everything from the first movie, creates a whole... changes so much there, has characters that are not developed well whatsoever, the editing is terrible, too many things are going on, the plot holes in here, just the way that things are used in here for no particular reason whatsoever. Like, there's a scene where they use the Scottish bagpipe version of Amazing Grace, which is most notable in something like Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, but here it makes no sense whatsoever, and it's just like, you really can't understand what the heck they were thinking with this. And this movie would cost a lot of money for 1991 standards. $34 million for this particular movie, and they shot this in Argentina, and you have to ask yourself, where did all that money go? I mean, $34 million doesn't go away just like that. I mean, it's, yeah, it's a mess on so many levels. Like, Sean Connery has made some really bad movies, especially later on in his career. This is probably one of his worst ones. This is right up there with the Avengers, the '98 one, and then the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And it's a mess. It's a mess on so many levels. And even with the alternate version that they did a couple years later, it doesn't really do that much anything better than what this movie did. I mean, it's a mess on so many levels. It's a movie that just... it's one of the worst movies of the year, easily. Maybe the worst movie of the entire year. But, yeah, it's absolutely horrible. It is absolutely horrible, so...
It was the first motion picture to explore the innocence of natural love in a paradise filled with wonder. Now, the story continues for a new generation. Columbia Pictures invites you to return to the Blue Lagoon. Two castaways, alone in a world untouched by time. Through the eyes of innocence, they discover their sensuality.
Do you remember what Mother said would happen when I became a woman?
Yes?
Become one.
Through the heart of danger,
I like the way it makes me feel.
they face every challenge nature has to offer.
It feels all alive.
Until the day civilization invades their island paradise.
Get away from me!
I want us to be husband and wife.
Yes.
And tests the boundaries of their love. Return to the innocence. Return to the mystery. Return to the passion. Return to the Blue Lagoon.
Oh, by the way, I was being sarcastic. Nobody was asking for this sequel. I mean, the original Blue Lagoon was an unexpected hit, but that impact that movie had did not last as long as people would want to think it is. Plus, that movie itself is not even that good to begin with. I mean, it just really isn't. You just want to watch two young people in their teens falling in love with each other on a deserted island, and you don't really get that with that movie. And the sad part, the worst thing about this movie is that it's the exact same plot as the first movie, except done worse. I mean, okay, so this supposedly takes place after the events of the first movie, which really makes no sense whatsoever, and it just, I don't know, man, this whole movie just is such a gigantic mess. I mean, the first movie at least had some likable personalities to it with Brooke Shields and Christopher Atkins. this is just a mess all around. Like, it's bad enough that you have to do the same movie over again, but you add in these new ridiculous, stupid elements to it that make it even worse than the previous film. It also doesn't help that Milla Jovovich is in it, and if you've been following my stuff over the last couple of years, you know that I really do not like Milla Jovovich as an actress. She tries way too hard to be taken seriously. She's not a good action heroine, with the Resident Evil movies. I just don't like her as an actress overall. I mean, she's probably a nice person in real life. I mean, she's probably a good person in real life, but as an actress, man, she's just terrible. I mean, and this movie doesn't help her out a bit, but then again, it's not really her fault. It's just the idea of doing another Blue Lagoon movie where you do absolutely nothing to make it interesting or exciting, or just do something clever with it. It just doesn't work at all. It just rehashes the same movie from the first time all over again, except does it even stupider with new elements that make no sense whatsoever compared to the original film. I don't think I need to say any more about this movie. It's a disaster on so many levels. It's a movie that shouldn't have been made. They made it, and nobody went to go see it because audiences were at least smart enough to say, I'm not spending money on this. It's just like, yeah, this movie's just awful, man. It's an awful, awful film. Return to the Blue Lagoon. Just don't go. Don't return.
Their values are from the 50s. Their homes are from the 60s. And their music is from the 70s.
Well, let's start chasing. So, are we having fun yet or what?
But now, this sleepy little town is about to become cool as ice.
Drop it. What the hell is that? Drop that zero and get with the hero. You are the girl. See you later, Dick. It's Nick. Oh, yeah. Nick.
Sometimes I'd like to do something really wild just because I never have.
You ain't true to yourself, and you ain't true to nobody.
Your love can take me higher.
I want you to stay away from him.
He's not what you think he is.
My brother's been kidnapped.
What we want, Jim, is a little collection on an old IOU. You're the eye. Now, what are you?
You're all wrong. He didn't do anything.
Come on, get on.
How can you know that, Catherine?
I trust him, Dad.
Vanilla Ice is going to take an uncool world and chill it to the bone.
Well, I hope you like being a biker chick, because you're not going to see me or my car again. Imagine that.
From Universal Pictures, Cool as Ice.
God damn it, that was a bad movie. It's as bad as you think it is. That trailer pretty much just tells you everything you need to know about how horrible this movie is. You want to know how bad this movie is? Gwyneth Paltrow, when she was still very young, she was offered the role as the leading female in this movie, and her father forbid her from doing this movie because she thought it would hurt her career. Father of the Year right there, because, man, what a disaster this movie is. And what do you really say to this? I mean, you don't like any of these characters in this movie. Like, Vanilla Ice is badly written. You think he's going to be the biggest jerk in the movie, the biggest person that you hate. No, everybody in this movie is awful. They're all awful people in this movie. They think they're funny, but they're not. They think that this guy's going to be the big problem, but they're badly written characters. They're all badly written characters. This universe that they live in is so bad. I mean, it's a movie that just stupefies me that it actually got made, and a major studio said, well, this is good enough. I mean, kids will go see anything, and surprise, surprise, kids didn't go see this movie. In fact, nobody saw this movie, because even by this point in 1991, Vanilla Ice was a one-hit wonder at this point. His career was already on the downhill slope. And, yeah, you can see why the head of the studio at the time at Universal was having this 18-month streak of bad movies, where every once in a while there'd be a hit, but most of the movies churned out were not very good. greenlighting movies like this probably is why you didn't keep your job for very much longer. But that being said, I don't really know the whole story on that, but I just saw an article from back then talking about how Universal was in an 18-month film slump in January of '92. So, I mean, this could be one of the obviously this is one of the contributing factors, but I don't think the guy got fired afterwards because, of course, a couple years later, the studio would rebound with stuff like Jurassic Park and Son of a Woman. But I'm getting completely off subject here because, quite honestly, I really don't have anything else to say about this movie. I mean, I guess some people would like it for the nostalgic factor. Some people could see it as a guilty pleasure movie. I just don't see it, man. This is a bad movie. This is one of the worst movies of the year. Maybe one of the worst movies ever made, in my opinion. So, to quote somebody from Double Toasted, Patrick Gertz, when he did the review for The Rings, I can honestly say that this is the whitest movie that has ever whited. Plain and simple. That's really all I gotta say about this movie. It's a bad film. It's a bad, bad film. So,
living just enough. Wesley Snipes. They will own the city. Ice-T. Alan Payne. Chris Rock. Mario Van Peebles. Christopher Williams. Vanessa Williams. Tracy Camilla Johns. And Judd Nelson.
This is Detective Nick Peretti, big crazy jarhead motorcycle freak reject cop just like you, Scotty.
On the streets, there's a fine line between wrong and right, good and bad, between those who enforce the law.
It is a war out there.
And those who break it.
Gone are the days of selling on the street corners, dark alleyways, and the back rooms of some bummy-ass bar. We ain't with that no more.
In a city where survival depends on friends.
It's always business. Never personal.
On family.
We gotta look out for one another.
On trust. On loyalty. On power.
Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am!
A family out to run a city are up against cops who know its streets.
This ain't business. This is personal.
This is big business. This is the American way.
Such a phenomenal movie, man. This is not only one of the best movies of the year, one of the best movies of the decade, and really the first great crime thriller of the 90s. And the 90s had a lot of really good crime thrillers, and a lot of good contemporary crime thrillers that really have stood the test of time and have become classic movies in their own rights. Wesley Snipes is very good in this movie, so is Ice-T. Mario Van Peebles is a great actor in this movie, as well as showing off his directing abilities. Chris Rock has a good scenes in this movie. Bill Cobbs is very good. Judd Nelson. Just a great Ice-T. Just a great cast overall, and just a great story to tell. It's very realistic. It doesn't feel like it's feeling like it has to be a crowd pleaser or anything. It just shows you the cold, hard, honest truth about life sometimes, and it's just a great movie. It just works on so many levels. These characters are so well written. The scenarios are very much. This whole movie just really has stood the test of time, and really, it doesn't feel like a movie that dates itself at all. It's a movie that feels like you could watch this nowadays, and it would feel like something that probably would happen right now. But I mean, it's a really good, well-made movie. I can't really talk more about this movie because I think everybody pretty much knows that this is a really great film. And like I said, it's one of the best movies of the decade and easily one of the best movies of the year. So yeah, that's my very quick review of New Jack City. Because really, do I really need to say anything more about how good this movie is? It's a really good film. So
I was 15 when I invented the artificial dog heart.
How you doing?
John Hughes, the creator of The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Uncle Buck.
Did I ever tell you about the time that I signed a professional ball contract?
We'd like to introduce you to Jim Dodge.
You got smart again, didn't you?
I'm not like everybody else.
He's got brain damage.
He doesn't. He spent 21 years improving on reality.
Going to Paris on F-14.
Jim is gonna find himself.
Are you a slacker?
No, I'm Presbyterian.
I can offer you $4.44 per hour. $4.44.
What about the benefits?
There's no eating. You're not being paid to eat, so don't play any music.
I don't have any time to play any music.
Don't touch me. Welcome to the target team.
You're locking me in?
Then, one wild night, Jim Dodge finally found the real thing. In aisle 5.
What are you doing here?
I work here.
Do you know how you make me feel?
Like a natural woman?
I'm a janitor in training. You're an heiress.
You know what your problem is?
No, but let me go through my list.
What are you planning to steal? Hairspray?
Well, we haven't decided yet, have we?
From John Hughes. Career Opportunities. The story of a man and a woman, aisles apart.
If I was sweating, would you touch me?
I would probably touch you even if you were covered with spiders.
And one night that changed everything.
It's not as uncomfortable as I thought it'd be. Oh, no, it's not that.
Yeah, sadly, this movie didn't do well at the box office. It also got a lot of negative reviews back then, and John Hughes himself even pushed the film away from his filmography. He didn't even want to talk about this movie, which, compared to some of the really bad movies that he's associated himself with, especially in the latter half of the 90s, yeah, this movie is not a bad movie at all. This is a wonderful, wonderful movie. And it just works because the leading characters, Frank Whaley and Jennifer Connelly, they work off each other so well. And for most people at Whaley's age, this is the perfect fantasy film for them. You're stuck in a dead-end job in the middle of the night, and then the girl of your dreams is right there inside, and you're stuck inside there for the rest of the night. And then you go on this crazy adventure with these two crooks that come into play, one of them played by Dermot Mulroney. And chaos and hilarity ensues, and it's a wonderful movie. It's a really great film. I really enjoy this movie a lot. And Jennifer Connelly, man, I mean, she was beautiful back then. She still is now. But, man, this was her at her peak hotness, in my opinion. I mean, the horse scene, when she's on the horse in there, in the Target, it's just like, nothing else matters, man. Like, that to me is like, that's pinnacle Jennifer Connelly to me. I mean, she was very beautiful back then. And, like I said, still a great actress, and she was great in this movie. It's also very interesting to look at this movie and realize that most Targets really have not changed since 1991. I mean, most stores have changed since they've been in previous movies. Like, I know Christmas Vacation had Walmart in there, and that was in 1989, and Walmart certainly looks a hell of a lot different than it does today. Target really does not look that different. I mean, there are very little things that you'll notice, like, obviously, we've improved in technology. The food courts have gotten much more fancier. Some of them have Starbucks. Some of them have Pizza Huts. It was interesting. It was fun to see an old school department store food court there. And I live in Western Pennsylvania. We've had Hills and Ames. It always takes me back to those old food courts that we used to have back then. We had like the popcorn, and a lot of people remember that. You could buy candles that actually smelled like Hills food courts around here. I mean, it was just kind of cool to really see that. And Target didn't come to my neck of the woods until about the late 90s. So, I mean, that was really something that took me back to like the good old days of like those old department stores that I used to love going into as a kid. But yeah, the movie is really fantastic, man. It's one of John Hughes' most underrated movies. In fact, most of the movies John Hughes made in 91 were actually very good movies for the most part. One of them, not so much, but we'll get to that at the tail end of the year. Excuse me. But, yeah, Career Opportunities is a very good movie. If you haven't seen it, please go out and check it out. You can find it on Blu-ray, you can find it on streaming, you can find it on DVD. Go seek it out. It's a wonderful movie. I can't recommend it enough. It's one of the great reasons why 1991 was such a great year for comedy. And, yeah, fantastic movie. There's nothing more I need to say about it, so.
He is one of the most acclaimed and controversial filmmakers of all time. In 1979, his adaptation of Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness captured the horror of Vietnam and instantly became a classic.
My film is not a movie. My film is not about Vietnam. Vietnam. It is Vietnam. It's what it was really like. It was crazy.
My greatest fear is to make a really embarrassing, pompous film on an important subject, and I am doing it.
I said, I don't know who this guy is. Who is this Willard? And Francis just looked me square in the eye and he said, he's you.
I would have done anything. He had convinced me that this was the first film that would win a Nobel Prize, you know.
It was like you were in a dream or something, you know. It'd say scenes unknown on the call sheet. You just would show up, you know. You didn't know what they were going to do.
I was not in the greatest of shape, you know, as far as like my career was concerned. It was delightful to hear that I was going to go do anything, anywhere.
Yeah, but are they seriously saying that Marlon would take $1 million and then not show up?
I swallowed a book.
I mean, it's not in the cards that we're not going to finish the movie.
You know, I felt that he'd do whatever he had to do. He'd borrow the money, but part of me was just fearless in that regard. It really didn't matter.
It's one thing to go over there for 3 weeks with like 5 people, but if you go over there as a big Hollywood production, they're going to kill you.
The magic.
We were in the jungle. There were too many of us, and little by little we went insane.
The madness.
What are they going to say about him? What are they going to say? He was a kind man. He was a wise man. He had plans. He had wisdom.
The making of Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
The questions that I kept facing, I couldn't answer. Yet I knew that I had constructed the film in such a way that to not answer would be to fail.
Hearts of Darkness. A filmmaker's apocalypse.
So we've had a lot of documentaries talking about troubled movie productions. We've had stuff like Empire of Dreams talking about the production of Star Wars, the original Star Wars from '77. The unsuccessful adaptation of of Dune, which was Jodorowsky's Dune. Lost Soul, the documentary about the making of the '96 version of The Island of Dr. Moreau. Lost in La Mancha, talking about the Terry Gilliam's original The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. Jim and Andy about the making of Man on the Moon. The Sweatbox about The Emperor's New Groove. A lot of that, those documentaries really have this movie to thank for it, and it's really a fantastic movie. As you can tell, this is about the making of Apocalypse Now, which is a great movie on its own, but you could definitely tell that there was a lot there that had to have happened behind the scenes, and luckily Francis Ford Coppola's wife, Eleanor, had all this footage showing behind the scenes of the making of this movie and how it took so much money and so much time that it nearly killed the strong career of Francis Ford Coppola, who was just coming off 2 very successful movies in The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, both that won Best Picture. And so you have this movie here talking about how it's about how Francis Ford Coppola nearly lost his mind, pretty much, with everything that was going on, from bad weather, poor health of actors, issues including the delaying of the film, increasing budget costs, and just the fact that the movie had so much around it that it would have been impossible to stop it altogether. It's not like now where a studio like Warner Brothers can take a $90 million movie like Batgirl and say, no, this isn't going to make any money. We're just going to destroy all the footage. Well, they're not really destroying all the footage. They just stop production. We're going to write it off as a tax write-off so nobody can ever see it. You could never do that with a movie like this in 1979. They would have destroyed that studio head for that, but evidently not today's case. But I did hear recently they were going to do that the other movie they canceled production. They were going to let them finish Scoob Holiday Hunt, so fingers crossed that maybe one day Batgirl will eventually get a chance to be finished, but I'm getting completely off subject here. Let's go back to this movie here, because this is a really good documentary. It's a really good documentary mixing the old footage with the newer footage with the people involved in the project, including Robert Duvall, Dennis Hopper, George Lucas, John Millis, one of the co-writers, Martin Sheen, just these great people talking about the making of this film that was really an adventure to make, and it definitely shows in this documentary. Something I found interesting was that one of the directors of this Fax Bar later went on to do create Mad TV, which is, of course, the most successful competitor to Saturday Night Live in late-night television. So I found that pretty interesting. But the documentary, it's in and of itself, is very interesting. Even if you don't like Apocalypse Now, you could still find a lot to really love about this movie. This is a really hard-hitting documentary about how one movie nearly destroyed this director's reputation, and kind of changed the way that his career took after that. Because, I mean, he wasn't having those big critical and financial hits after this one. Once in a while he might, but most of his movies in the 80s, I am of the belief that they weren't terrible. Most of them were pretty decent films. Like, One from the Heart is really good. So is The Cotton Club, The Outsiders, Tucker the Man in His Dream. But you could tell that Francis Ford Coppola was a different person after Apocalypse Now, and it definitely shows in this movie how he just turns as the movie continues into production and keeps going through all this hell that keeps going on. And it's a phenomenal movie. It's a great documentary. I highly recommend checking this one out. Hearts of Darkness, A Filmmaker's Apocalypse. Credit Fax Bar, credit George Hickenlooper, the late George Hickenlooper, and Eleanor Coppola, and of course Francis Ford Coppola, and all these people for making such a great documentary. Really one of the best documentaries ever made, so...
I needed that. Yes.
Hola!
This town is so very nice, and everything's just so very, very nice.
What?
Somebody's out there.
What's your connection with this fella?
I was his lawyer.
Oh, it's a shafted him somehow, right?
What was he in prison for?
No, really. What did you do?
Have you been following me? Well, it's a small town. Every way you turn, I guess we're gonna run into each other.
Dad, you should have just punched him out. Yeah, you know how to fight dirty. You do that for a living.
This guy, he threatened you?
He's clever, so that the law can't touch him.
Come out, wherever you are.
You have a daughter around 16?
16? What?
Every good man's got to wrestle with the devil. I want you the hell off my property!
You, sir, will be hearing from the ethics committee.
We got this freaking psychopath in our faces. I mean, who knows what's true and what isn't?
I'm just losing my mind here.
I called the vet, and then he died.
Lee, I told you not to let him out. I didn't let him out! I didn't let him out!
It would be unethical of me to advise a citizen to take the law into his own hands.
You thought about me last night, didn't you?
Evening, ladies.
Hello?
I think we're alone now.
Where are you from?
I'm from the Black Forest. Maybe I'm a big bad wolf. Do you mind if I put my arm around you?
Ready for the most pointless jump scare ever? Seriously, what was the point of that? I mean, I guess because they used it all over the trailer, they did it one more time to scare the audience to come in this movie. I don't know if that really made much of a difference, but that's really one of the most pointless jump scares to have in the trailer. I mean, really. There's other trailers that use those kind of jump scares at the end, but yeah, that was entirely pointless. But Besides that, this is actually a pretty damn good movie. I mean, not only is it a great remake of the original film, which I always thought for the longest time was actually a Hitchcock movie, the original Cape Fear. Turns out it's not. I mean, this remake, however, does use a lot of influences to make you think, and like homages and little scenes that make you think that it is based off of a Hitchcock movie, but really, it's not. Hitchcock had nothing to do with the original film. However, in this case, Martin Scorsese used a lot of influence on Hitchcock to do this type of film, and give him credit though, it worked out pretty well in the end. I mean, I think he actually makes a movie that's really a lot better than the original Cape Fear, which is a great movie, but this movie really ups the ante big time. I think this really shows. I mean, it doesn't really show that that Martin Scorsese is a great director, because at this point he's already a great director. He's directed so many good movies at this point, but it goes to show how great of a director he can really be because of the way he's able to take a classic film like Cape Fear and make it and modernize it to make it his own, and make it so unique and so creative and so different and so intense at the same time. I mean, Robert De Niro in this movie is amazing. He's great playing Max Cady. You can tell why he got an Oscar nomination for this. Nick Nolte and Jessica Lange both are very good in here. Juliette Lewis, who also got nominated for an Oscar, really shows why she became a big star after this one. She really gives a really good, solid performance that really was worthy of a Best Supporting Actress nomination. I do like that, and I do like that little weird chemistry that she has with Robert De Niro's character in this. I mean, it's chilling, it's terrifying, but at the same time, you kind of buy into it. You kind of buy into this whole idea that Nick Nolte's daughter would be in this. It would somehow be kind of aroused by this guy, even though he's a dangerous threat to them. But on a visual level, it looks incredible. The cinematography by Freddie Francis is so well done. The music by Bernard Herrmann is very good as well. Some great editing in here. You've even got people from the original movie in here. You've got Robert Mitchum playing a small role in here. Gregory Peck in what would be his final film role. And Martin Balsam is also in here. They're playing 3 different characters, but they're all working very well with the material given to them. And really, this is one of the best remakes of all time. It's not only a movie that lives up to the greatness of the original film, but ups the ante so much that it stands out on its own. It's just an overall great psychological thriller. I prefer this movie a whole lot better than The Silence of the Lambs, easily. And it's a shame that it didn't get as much recognition as Silence of the Lambs did, but the legacy that it has left behind shows that it is still a movie that still holds up very much to this day. I love this movie so much. Cape Fear, fantastic film, another great achievement by Martin Scorsese. If you haven't seen it yet, I cannot recommend it enough. Cape Fear, such a great movie all around. So
This is Los Angeles, gang capital of the nation.
Just goes on and on, you know. Either they don't know, don't show, don't care about what's going on in the hood.
South Central LA.
Yo, Benini, let's do the local thing.
It's tough to beat the streets.
What am I supposed to do? Fool roll up, try to smoke me? Shoot the motherfucker.
You have to think, young brother, about your future.
Man, why you sweating me?
You're my only son, and I'm not gonna lose you to no bull.
Baby, don't worry about it. I can take care of myself.
Trey wanted to work his way up.
Trey is a grown man now. He is not a little boy anymore.
Heard you like Mr. GQ Smooth now.
Maybe some of what you gotta rub off on him.
Ricky was looking for a better life.
I want to do something with my life, all right? I want to be somebody.
When you were a little boy, you used to run around here all the time with that football in your hand. I always knew you would amount to something.
Doughboy was living by the laws of the street.
Fuck you looking at, nigga? We got a problem here? We got a problem, nigga?
Can we have one night where there ain't no fight, nobody gets shot?
It's hard to be a saint in South Central LA.
I don't understand why you insist on learning things the hard way, Trey, but you gonna learn.
How to survive in South Central? Rule number 1, just have a gun, and then South Central. That's how you survive. Rule number 2, don't trust nobody, especially a girl with a hooker's body. number 3, don't take your life for granted. This is the craziest place on the planet.
Something wrong? Something wrong, yeah. It's just too bad you don't know what it is.
Show you the first verse of the song.
Stop the boy Cuban flinging his gangsta, homie. Yo, gonna lift my hand, tilt to the back, and strap with a gun and ready to cap. Hey, yo, Q, watch out, mother...
I mean, really, you can't go wrong when the movie opens up with the Columbia Pictures torch lady swearing up a storm.
Fuck that, man. Them niggas around the corner tripped out, man. Where my... Fuck that, man. Where my strap? Fuck that shit, man.
Let's go.
Them niggas
I'll take my car.
corner,
Come
man.
on. Fuck that, man. Oh, fuck that. We finna let these niggas have it.
Yeah, you could probably tell that wasn't actually her, but at least it sounds a lot better than the TV version did. Yeah, some of those people didn't even sound like the same ones from the original release, but that being said, let's talk about the movie Boyz N The Hood. This was, of course, the directorial debut for John Singleton. Features a cast that includes Ice Cube, Cuba Gooding Jr., Morris Chestnut, Lawrence Fishburne, Regina King, Nia Long, Angela Bassett, and it really is another one of those movies where I really don't need to say too much more about it, because I think everybody knows that this is one of those great movies that really came out at just the right time, and kind of like how Do the Right Thing and Jungle Fever were groundbreaking movies of their time. This movie definitely feels like that type of movie that was such a groundbreaking movie that still holds up to this very day. You can still see a lot of the stuff in this movie taking place in modern times, and it's a movie that, for the most part, is going to remain timeless, unfortunately, but it has these great performances. Ice Cube really proves his acting abilities with this movie. This is, I believe this is one of his first acting roles after the years he spent with NWA, and you have Cuba Gooding Jr., like I said, Morris Chestnut, Lawrence Fishburne in this. It's just a great movie, man. It's a movie that's a really solidly made film. It shows the great abilities of what John Singleton was able to do as a writer and director, and it just makes you miss him more and more. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, and he leaves behind a lot of great movies, including this first one here, which is a movie that I think really does stand out on its own. It's a brilliantly made film. I don't think I need to say anything more about it, because I think everybody who has seen this movie knows exactly how good of a movie this really is. It tugs at your heartstrings a lot. It's got a nice mix of emotional weight, acting, writing, bits of comedic elements to it. It's a wonderful movie. It's one of the best movies that came out in '91. It's one of the best movies of the decade. I can't really say any more about it that hasn't already been said already. Boyz N The Hood, fantastic film. If you haven't seen it already, you gotta go check it out.
Washington, D.C., where violence explodes every day. But America's toughest cop is pounding a new beat. Lieutenant Drebin. The police squad is back.
Is this some kind of bus?
Very impressive, yeah.
They're ready for action.
How you doing, Trooper?
Ready for love.
I'm lonely, I'm lost, I need someone to hold, to love.
Frank, over here.
And ready for seconds. In the movie that proves you can lead a cop to water, but you can't make him think.
The water's over there, Frank.
Starring Leslie Nielsen.
I don't recall seeing your name on the guest list. Nothing to be embarrassed about. I sometimes go by my maiden name.
If it's not dangerous, he's not interested. Priscilla Presley as the irrepressible Jane. Robert Goulet as Quentin Habsburg.
The truth hurts, doesn't it, Habsburg? Oh, sure. Maybe not as much as jumping on a bicycle with a seat missing, but it hurts.
George Kennedy as Captain Ed Hocken.
Congratulations. I understand that Edna's pregnant again.
Yes, and if I catch the guy who did it. And O.J. Simpson as Lordberg. If you only see one movie this year, you ought to get out more often. The Naked Gun 2.5. The Smell of Fear.
I mean, the strongest thing you got.
This is a sequel so big, they had to add another half.
This is, of course, a sequel to The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad, which was a big hit back in Christmas of '88. And this one did a little bit better than the first movie did. It was a slightly bigger success than the first movie was. Helped a lot thanks to frequent VHS play between the time of this new movie and the original film. And CBS at the time actually aired the entire Police Squad TV series, all 6 episodes of the ABC show. They actually aired them in time in preparation for this movie coming out. And so there was a little bit of a build-up here to this movie, and while I won't say that this is better than the first movie, it's still a really funny movie. Naked Gun 2.5 really is still a very funny movie, and in a way, there are parts of it where I would say it is a little bit better than the first movie is, mostly in how they do some of the comedic bits in here, some of the references they make in here. This one in particular has more of an emphasis on throwing in some callbacks and some jokes straight from the Police Squad TV series. There are lines that are taken straight from the Police Squad TV series and put into this. There are callbacks, there are homages to the original series in this particular movie. That the first movie was just, most of it was basically on its own for the most part, but there you could definitely notice a lot more of the callbacks to some of the moments in Police Squad, like the bit at the end in the climax of the movie where Frank Drebin and the bad guys are shooting each other, and you think it's going to be like a distance. One's shooting from a distance, the other's also shooting from a distance, but they're literally right next to each other, shooting each other behind the walls and all that. There are a lot of those jokes in this movie, and they are very funny. This is still a very funny movie. I mean, right from the get-go, you're laughing pretty quickly at some of the funny stuff that they do here. And like I said, it really doesn't... It doesn't have those same good hard laughs that the first movie did, but the movie still packs a ton of good laughs in here. This is a very funny movie. Leslie Nielsen just shows why he and David Zucker and the Zucker brothers work with each other so well. Like, whenever you put Leslie Nielsen in a movie that's not done by these same people, a spoof comedy, more than usual, it doesn't usually pan out all that well. Of course, you got Priscilla Presley back for this. George Kennedy's back in this as Captain Ed Hawken. You got O.J. Simpson back as Nordberg, who has a bigger role here, but at the same time, he still gets beat up a lot in this movie. Maybe not quite as much as the first movie, but it is still very funny, and especially since, in the 30 years since this movie's come out, and you've seen what has happened to O.J. Simpson, you can't help but think that he does kind of deserve it a little bit. And there are still a lot of funny moments involving his character in this movie. Robert Goulet plays a great villain in this movie, and you also have Richard Griffiths playing the Dr. Albert S. Meinheimer in here. He actually has a couple of very good moments in here as well, some good funny moments. And like I said, it's a really funny movie. It's still very funny. It's still very silly, but the good kind of silly. It's a good fun time when you had a bad day and you just want to watch something hilarious. These movies just put a big smile on my face. I love these movies so much. Like I said, it's not as good as the first movie, but I can't help it, man. The Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear is absolutely brilliant. Funny movie. I don't think I need to say it anymore, but you gotta check it out if you haven't seen it already.
Why are we out here tonight, Flipper?
All right, you gotta promise me that you're not gonna tell anyone.
Our lips are sealed. Come on, what happened?
All right. But you gotta swear. I mean, this is like swearing on a stack of Bibles, swearing on like a zillion rosary beads.
I swear on my great-grandmother, okay? We swear. What?
I cheated on Drew.
I'm seeing somebody.
You too, Tyra? Who are you seeing? Oh.
I thought you were gonna drop a bomb.
And what is he, like blonde, blue-eyed surfer type?
Hey, dude.
Right?
She's white. White!
Yeah, you can't really slack.
If your father ever found out, I don't know.
She's Italian.
H-bomb.
From Bensonhurst.
Nuclear megaton bomb.
Hey, look, this is the 90s. There's nothing wrong with it, you know?
Both of you's got jungle fever. Both of you.
Like Jonah was cast out of the belly of the whale.
You had to eventually go get yourself a white girl, didn't you?
What do you mean eventually?
What a tramp, what a slut.
Do you know there's only one thing he could possibly want from her?
You gonna give her a beating?
My father did that already.
It don't even matter what color she is. My man is gone.
This summer,
Why don't you pull the car over, pal?
I mean, I don't want any trouble, you know?
I promise. Just pull it over.
from director Spike Lee,
Welcome to the Taj Mahal, eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah, the mama wants to know where the TV is.
It's right here. Me and Bill smoking the color TV.
Jungle Fever, Wesley Snipes, Annabella Sciorra, Spike Lee, Ossie Davis, Ruby Dee, Samuel L. Jackson, Lynette McKee, John Turturro, Frank Vincent, and Anthony Quinn.
You got a big problem. You and her.
Original songs by Stevie Wonder.
Man, that Stevie Wonder song, man, even if you don't like this movie all that much, the Stevie Wonder song for Jungle Fever at the beginning is so damn catchy that you can't help but love it. I mean, it's a great song. It really does set the tone for this movie, just like how the opening of Do the Right Thing sets the tone very well. And this is definitely a much better movie than Mo Better Blues is. I mean, it's not quite Do the Right Thing good, but it's still a pretty damn good movie. It's a great movie with great performances all around. Wesley Snipes, Annabelle Sciorra working off each other very well. They have some really good chemistry together. A breakout performance for Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, this was one of the movies where he really began this huge presence, and he actually broke out big time. I mean, this was a performance where everyone looked at him and went, this dude's got some potential here. And of course, he went on to do stuff like Jurassic Park, Pulp Fiction, Time to Kill, so many other movies I can mention that really built up his repertoire over the course of the 90s. And the movie it works on so many levels that Do the Right Thing did. Like, it's very funny. It can be very funny at times. It's very dramatic. Nothing really feels forced or over the top except when it needs to. The performances are very strong. They're very good. And it's a topical movie. It's still a very topical movie even to this very day. Even though we've progressed so much since then, there's still a lot of elements in this movie that still hold up to this very day. And I also like that the movie doesn't give you the typical happy ending. Like, it doesn't give you a happy ending for Wesley Snipes' character. I mean, it delivers a cold, hard truth about his situation, and I like that Spike Lee was able to do that. I like that. That's what I like most about Spike Lee, is that his ability to tell these great stories without just going straight for the happy ending, except when you really need to have it be a happy ending. But yeah, in this case, it really works. It really works to the advantage of the film. This is just a great movie all around. If you thought Mo Better Blues was definitely not quite as good as the other Do the Right Thing was, this is definitely the movie that puts Spike Lee right back on top of where he was. Like I said, it wasn't as good as Do the Right Thing, but I definitely liked it a lot better than, say, Mo Better Blues. I think this is a much better movie. Can't recommend it enough. It's one of the best movies of the year. Jungle Fever. It's a great movie. So.
If I answer that question you keep asking, if I give you the name of the big enchilada, then it's Bon Voyage Dino. I mean like permanent. I mean like a bullet in my head, you dig? Does that help you see my problem a little better?
Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flash of light in the bushes, and then shots rang out.
No cloak and dagger stuff, They call it Operation Mongoose.
It's gonna be okay, Dave. You just talk to us on the record and we'll protect you. I guarantee it.
You're so naive.
You found us in your office. We think the conference room is also bugged, maybe the phones.
I'm not cooperating here. Listen, there's a death warrant for me.
Are the same people that kill us, Pop?
Nobody's gonna kill us.
Y'all gotta get into your minds how the hell the spooks think. Now, they're not ordinary crooks. Think the unthinkable. Question everything. Now, we're through the looking glass here, people. White is black, and black is white. You don't believe me? All this time, you never believed me.
I just want to raise our children and live a normal life. I want my life back.
This thing's bigger than all of us. Now, how many corpses is it going to take for you lawyers to figure out what you want? People got to know. People got to know why he was killed.
You know what you've done to me? I'm a dead man! Well, if they can kill the president, they can certainly get me.
You're a mouse fighting a gorilla.
You're close. You're closer than you think.
There's going to be an attempt to kill you somewhere between here and New Orleans.
I say let justice be done or the heavens fall.
I mean, this one I really don't even need to talk about all that much, because really, everyone can agree that this is not only one of Oliver Stone's best movies, but it is probably his biggest, his magnum opus. I mean, this is next to Platoon, Born on the 4th of July, and this movie. This is definitely one of his most memorable films, and you can definitely see why. It's a movie that does everything that you think a movie like this would fail against, but really succeeds on so many levels. First off, it's a 3-hour movie, over 3-hour movie that's never boring. It keeps you invested in what's going on. You're watching this, and you're just so invested in what's going on, and you're trying to figure out if there's a point to be made about some of the things that they're trying to bring into here. And not only that, you got one hell of a cast. I mean, this is an amazing cast they've got involved in this. Not only Kevin Costner, but you have Kevin Bacon, you have Tommy Lee Jones, you have Laurie Metcalf, Gary Oldman, Michael Rooker, Sissy Spacek, Joe Pesci is in here, Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau are in here, Donald Sutherland's in this movie. The mysterious elements about the movie are very well done. This is what Oliver Stone does at his best. I mean, I think he creates a smart and enjoyable political thriller where you become so invested in what's going on that you can't turn away from it. You just really can't turn away from it. It easily is one of the best political thrillers ever made, and kind of like with Beauty and the Beast, this is a movie that probably should have won Best Picture. I mean, this is a movie that really shows you everything that Oliver Stone does so well as a filmmaker, and he really sells it here. It's a really great film, fantastic movie, another one of Oliver Stone's best films. I can't recommend this movie enough. If you haven't seen it already, please go see JFK.
Same make.
These were taken at the West Highland Police Station, 1984. You were there.
Same bottle.
These were taken today.
You have to let me see my son. He's in great danger.
New mission. Once he was programmed to destroy the future.
You don't know what it's like to try to kill one of these things.
Now his mission,
Get down.
is to protect it.
Come with me if you want to live.
You're really real.
His loyalty is to a child.
Who sent you?
You did. 35 years from now.
And his enemy
He's a Terminator like you, right?
Not like me.
is the deadliest machine ever built.
Can it be destroyed?
Unknown.
This time, there are two. Terminator 2.
You just can't go around killing people.
Why?
If you thought you had seen it all, look again.
Stay down!
Go! Now!
We've got to stick together!
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Terminator 2, Judgment Day. This time, he's back. For good.
Trust me.
You know, something about Terminator 2 going into this movie's release was that it was a big hit. The original film was a big hit at the time. It did make a ton of money at the box office. It did have this huge cult following. But, of course, this comes 7 years after the last movie did. And at least to me, I'm always one of those people that believes if you take way too long on a sequel, chances are it's not going to turn out very well. Like, usually the best time to release a sequel, in my opinion, is somewhere between 2 to 5 years. Like, 2 to 5 years, it seems like the perfect ratio for a sequel that could be as good, if not better, than the first movie. But, I mean, that's just my personal opinion on it. And when you have a movie like this that has James Cameron back in this, as well as Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton, yeah, you can get excited, and you can definitely get excited for it, and you can definitely see the potential for something great here. And there really is a lot to this movie that was at stake here, because not only was there a ton of marketing for this movie, they hyped this movie up to an ungodly level. The teaser trailer for this, that came out in '90, is still one of the most badass teaser trailers I've ever seen. I can't show it here because most of it is music, and I'm afraid of copyright infringement from YouTube, so definitely go look for the teaser trailer for that. But not only that, though, you had a summer that didn't have a big, gigantic potential blockbuster in it, like past summers, like in '89 with Batman, or '90 with Terminator, Back to the Future 3, or Die Hard 2. Yeah, '91 was pretty much a summer where it was just like, it felt like a normal kind of summer, because you had Backdraft as the main thing that started it off on Memorial Day, and then you'd have movies like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which was a big hit, Dying Young, which they were projecting to be a big hit, and it didn't do anything like that. So, same with The Rocketeer, and then you have Naked Gun 2.5, which actually did better than the previous film. So this was the first major blockbuster of the summer, I guess, in my opinion, and they did a good job, and because you had it coming out on 4th of July weekend, you had all this build-up, there was a lot of promotions going around for it, it was pretty much everywhere with tie-ins to Pepsi, there was video games, action figures. I mean, the Terminator was big, but was still a big thing back then, but this was still a very costly movie, specifically for the visual effects, because this was the first time the computer-generated main character was used in this, and because of this, the prints for this movie didn't get released to theaters until the night of its release on July 3rd, or the day before the night of its release on July 3rd. So, yeah, and with a budget of $94 to $102 million, it was the most expensive movie made at the time. So there was a lot of build-up for this movie, especially when you consider that Carolco Pictures was the main studio behind this. I mean, Columbia Pictures put it out, but they were just distributing it. Carolco put all this money into it, getting with the special effects used by Industrial Light and Magic. So there was a lot of high expectations going into this movie. And sure enough, not only did it succeed as a movie, it succeeded very well at the box office. It made over $52 million in its first 5 days, which in 1991 is pretty amazing when you consider that's the second highest grossing opening weekend of all time, behind Batman, which was at $53 million, I think. But nowadays, $51 million to $50 million isn't really that big of a box office for a movie of this caliber. It still is a big number for something like an original movie, like we recently had with Nope, which made over $40 million. But then again, we're still in post-COVID times right now. But it's unprecedented how well this movie did financially. It made much more money than the previous film did, and rightfully so, because really, what do I even have to say about this movie that hasn't already been said? It's an amazing movie. It's a movie that not only ups the ante on the previous movie, it's a movie that's not only still the best Terminator movie ever, but more importantly, it's a movie that still holds up to this very day on so many levels. The story is still very interesting and intense. The film does a good job of playing with your expectations, even though in the trailers they spoil some of the big moments in here a little bit. You can still watch this movie and know and be shocked by what happens next, because of the way everything is shot and the way that James Cameron makes this movie. And the visual effects of this movie still hold up to this very day. The T-1000 still looks like a threatening menace. And usually with early movies with CGI, you can usually tell where there's some dating on it, but not in this case. I mean, the movie still holds up a lot to this very day on so many levels. I mean, it's a great fun adventure film. It's a great action film. It plays with your expectations on what you're expecting from this, and it really still holds up to this very day. Even as many times you can watch this movie, you can still be very impressed by what this movie is able to do. Like like playing with your expectations, the way the action sequences are shot, the way the visuals are shot, the way the tension builds on so many moments, the way the action is played, the way they mix in comedy very well, the dramatic elements are very good, like I said, the visuals still hold up very well, it's a mix of practical and the CG effects, and, yeah, really, there's nothing more I can say about it. I mean, yeah, you got Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton, they're great. Eddie Furlong as John Connor, the young John Connor, plays a very good role in this. Like, he's not the typical annoying kid character in an action movie like this. I mean, it works very well for him. And then, of course, you got Robert Patrick as the T-1000, I was going to say. I mean, he still is one of the great villains in movie history. And every time he's on screen, you just know that something is off with this guy. Even before you find out that he's actually the bad guy. Just great work on this movie all around. You could tell that James Cameron really puts a lot into these sequels that nobody else would really put into it. Like, you could have made this a cash grab movie, and I don't think it would have been as good as the original Terminator, but it definitely wouldn't be the cinematic epic that this really is. But this is a true classic movie. And honestly, like I said before, nothing has ever really come close to topping what this movie has done. We've had some good Terminator stuff in the years since this. Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines, I thought, was a decent movie. I'm one of the few people that really like Terminator Salvation. I really like the Sarah Connor Chronicles TV series. If you haven't seen that show, that's probably my favorite thing to come out of Terminator since Terminator 2. And then, of course, you had Terminator Genesis and Terminator Dark Fate, which completely dismantled anything good coming out of that franchise. It's weird, because it's like Alien and Terminator kind of had the same pathway. I mean, Alien and Terminator were groundbreaking sci-fi movies. They have sequels that are as good or even better than the original film. And then everything else that comes after, it's just not as good, if not any good whatsoever. Like, there will be some things here or there, but nothing really that tops the achievements that Aliens and Terminator 2 does. And, yeah, really, that's all I got to say about it, because I think everybody has seen this movie. I don't even need to recommend it to people, because I think a lot of people have seen it and know how great of a movie it is, so what more do I even need to say about it? Terminator 2 Judgment Day. It's a freaking fantastic movie, and one of the best action movies of all time. Need I say more?
Walt Disney Pictures presents its all-new 30th full-length animated motion picture.
Is anyone here?
Mama, there's a girl in the castle.
Good.
A girl! The classic story of Beauty and the Beast. He was a lonely beast, cursed by a mysterious spell, and she was the beautiful young girl who could set him and his kingdom free.
She's the one. She has come to break the spell.
They were two complete opposites.
I don't want to have anything to do with him.
She is being so difficult.
Until something wonderful happened.
There's something sweet. Straighten up. And almost kind.
Show me the smile.
But he was mean and he was coarse and unrefined. And now he's dear.
You look so...
I'm so unsure.
Stupid.
I wonder why I didn't see it there before.
It's a story filled with fun.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Adventure.
Sacre bleu. Invaders.
And dozens of wonderful new Disney characters.
Keep it down.
Featuring 6 new songs from the Academy Award-winning composer and lyricist of The Little Mermaid. This holiday season, share the fun, the magic, and the music of an entertainment event you'll never forget. Disney's Beauty and the Beast.
I mean, really, what more do I even need to say about this movie? It's just a movie that we all know is one of the best animated movies ever made. One of the best movies ever made, quite honestly. Like, you could see why this movie competed with movies like Silence of the Lambs or JFK and Bugsy and all these other movies that were nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, and why I think I easily think it was the best movie overall and should have won over the Silence of the Lambs easily, just to show that, hey, animation is considered to be something that's not just for kids. This movie was made as a real movie, not a movie that was made specifically for kids. And this was at the peak of Disney's creative zeitgeist that they had, their second renaissance at the time. And you can see why. It's a great story. You have these great characters that you can buy into, you can relate to them on so many levels. The voice work is fantastic. Paige O'Hara as Belle is great. Robbie Benson as the Beast is great. Just these great characters all around. A great villain in Gaston. The music is fantastic. Some of the best music Disney has ever done. I mean, the opening song alone just sucks you in, and you just get so invested into the situation, and you're just along for the ride. I mean, the love story, I think, works really well. The story overall is great. There's great twists and turns that works to the film's advantage. It does something very unique and different compared to other adaptations of this story that really, it's hard to find any real faults to this movie, quite honestly. It's a movie that I think still holds up very well over time. And, I mean, look, I don't hate the 2017 remake of Beauty and the Beast, the one that Disney did, but this is way... Nothing ever will top this movie. Definitely will ever top this movie. And as much as that movie, there were parts of that movie, that 2017 remake, I did like. There were a lot of things that really just irked me so much that I can't recommend it on that many levels. I mean, I'll give it credit for credit was due. The music I thought was okay. Some of the changes they did I thought were good, but some of the other ones not so much. Some of the things they add in there just don't work. And I mean, this movie just shows you why that remake didn't work so well, because this is a movie that's just so much of a Disney classic that it's so hard to replicate what they were able to do with this movie that they did in the remake. And by God, they tried, and it didn't work out so well, but nothing ever will top what this original Beauty and the Beast did. I mean, it's just a great movie, fantastic film, a must-see Disney classic. I don't need to say any more about this one. One of the best animated movies of all time. One of my favorite movies of all time. Beauty and the Beast. What more can you say about it?